Namaste and welcome to Daily News Simplified, the what, why and how of newspaper reading. Now we will be analyzing the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper of 15th of April 2019, and the news that will be covered today is given on the screen, and the timestamp for the same is given in the description and the comment section given below. And so now with this, let us start with the first article. Now we have taken this lead editorial from the editorial page on page 8. Now, as you already might be aware of, several political parties within India have announced a basic income scheme whereby direct cash would be provided to individuals or families based on some defined parameters. Now, the current political party in power has announced the PM Kisan scheme, while the party in opposition has announced the Nyay scheme. And what both of these schemes are income support schemes, whereby what would happen is that some individuals or families would get a fixed amount of money each month or every year. And these families or individuals would be provided this money based on some parameters for each of these schemes. Now, according to the author, providing universal basic services would be better in reducing poverty in India than the income support schemes which have been announced by various political parties. Now, when we say universal basic services, it means providing health, education, and public services to every individual within India. Now, according to the author, providing these universal basic services to the citizens of India would be better at reducing poverty as compared to the income support schemes which have been launched by various political parties. However, we're going to further understand the supporting arguments that have been given by the author as to why the universal basic services is more better at reducing poverty as compared to income support schemes. And we're going to understand that from the perspective of GS paper 2 within the section Social Justice, and within the subsection Welfare Schemes for the Vulnerable Sections, issues relating to development and management of social sector services, issues relating to poverty, and government policies and interventions for the development in various sectors, and issues arising out of their design and implementation. Now let us further understand as to what the author talks about in this editorial. Now what the author has done in this editorial is that he has highlighted various problems that are there with the income support schemes. And it is within that context that the author has highlighted as to how the universal basic services or the provision of providing universal basic services can be a better solution to reduce poverty within India as compared to the income support schemes. Now what we're going to do is understand about the problems with the income support schemes in a comparative format with the solutions that the author has highlighted that can be achieved by providing universal basic services to the citizens of India. Now the first problem which has been highlighted by the author with regards to income support scheme is that they fail to remove the main cause of poverty within India. Now according to the author, the main cause of poverty within India is capability deprivation. Now in simple terms, capability deprivation means that an individual is unable to earn a proper income or a sufficient basic income with the work that is provided to him or the business that he operates. Now consider an example. Now for several central sector schemes, a household is considered below poverty line if they earn less than rupees 27,000 within a year. And this comes around 20 to 50 rupees per month. So if a household is earning less than this amount, then that family would be considered below poverty line. So now if a family is unable to earn this much amount of money, either due to lack of education, lack of opportunities, or any other reason, then according to the author, this family has capability deprivation, whereby due to several factors, they're unable to achieve a sufficient income and are thereby not able to move out of poverty. Now, the problem with income support schemes is that let's say this family has been earning rupees 2000. Now, what the government of India would do is provide them with cash transfers under a particular scheme. And by providing them direct cash transfers, it would allow this family to have a certain amount of money which would ensure that they're above the poverty line. However, according to the author, this provision of providing direct cash transfers and fill the gap in income for particular families does not solve the main causes of poverty, which is capability deprivation, whereby it is required that the government of India provides sufficient opportunities for a person to earn an income. And what this would do is ensure that this family or this individual becomes self-reliant and would not be dependent on the handouts from the government to come out of poverty. Now it is within that regard that the author has said that by providing universal basic services such as health, education among other, would remove the main cause of poverty, that is capability deprivation. Now, by ensuring universal basic services such as of education, it would allow every individual within India to receive minimum qualifications. And by achieving minimum qualifications, they would either be capable of leading a good job that would provide them good income, or they would also be able to start a business and ensure the success of this business. Apart from this, a common fact within India is that one of the major reasons as to why various families fall into the trap of poverty is because of the health expenditures. Whereby, let's say a particular person within a family falls sick, then the amount of expenditure that this family has to make on hospital, medicines, among other, has become one of the major causes of pushing families and individuals into poverty. Whereby a large amount of their income goes into providing for the hospital and the medicinal expenses. But by providing universal basic services such as of health, whereby what this would ensure is that the government would take care of the health expenditures of a family and so that they would not be forced into poverty. And this would also remove one of the major causes of poverty within India. Apart from this, by providing universal basic services, it also enhances the means of families and individuals to escape poverty. Whereby just by providing the means of educations to individuals, it would allow them to work, start their own business, and provide them greater opportunity and for their families to escape poverty. Now, this is a major difference which the author has highlighted on how the universal basic services are better at reducing poverty since they remove the main causes of poverty as compared to income support schemes which fail to remove the main causes of poverty. Now, the second problem with income support schemes which the author has highlighted is that income support schemes are based on selective beneficiaries. Now, what is being seen is that only selective beneficiaries are being selected for income support schemes such as farmers among other. And what this does is that there are various other sections of society such as urban laborers among other who are also struggling with poverty within India. And therefore income support schemes do not end poverty for every section of societies within India and only have selective beneficiaries. And even among selective beneficiaries, income support schemes still does not remove the main causes of poverty. Now, within that regard, the author has said that by providing universal basic services, it would ensure a catch-all provisions for all forms of beneficiaries. Now, by providing access to education, healthcare, and among public sector services, it would ensure that every section of society, whether they're agricultural laborers or farmers within rural India, or they're working in the informal sector within urban areas, they would all benefit by having access to public schools, public hospitals, and other form of universal basic services. So therefore, according to the author, by spending money on universal basic services, it would ensure a better reach to all sections of society who suffer from poverty. But by providing income support schemes, it does not provide access to every sections of society to come out of poverty. Now, the third problem which the author has highlighted with the income support schemes is that they increase the opportunity cost for human development measures. Now, through a simple example, let us understand as to what is opportunity cost. Now, let's say you have a second home, and what you can do is provide the second home for rent, and the rent for the second home may be of 10,000. Now, let's say the second home of yours has not been put on rent. Then what is happening is that by not putting the second home on rent, you're losing 10,000 rupees per month. And this is called an opportunity cost. So it means that by not taking this opportunity, it is costing you rupees 10,000 per month. And it is within that context, what the author is trying to say is that the government has two opportunities, whereby the budget of the government of India is limited, wherein they can either spend this money on income support schemes or they can spend this money in universal basic services. Now, according to the author, the amount of money which might be spent on the Nyaya scheme might be around 1 lakh crore. This 1 lakh crore which might go into the Nyaya schemes as a form of income support schemes means that this money cannot be spent on universal basic services and is therefore a loss in opportunity cost. Now, according to the author, if the amount of money which is going to be spent in an income support scheme is spent on universal basic services such as health, education, access to drinking water, among other basic services, then it would enhance the access to improved standard of livings for all citizens of India. Now, let's say if the government has spent 1 lakh crore in income support scheme, then it still does not mean that the people who have gotten this money have increased access to clean drinking water or increased access to housing or increase access to education or health. But by spending this money on basic services such as access to drinking water, clean environment among other, it would improve the standard of living for all citizens of India. Now, it is within that context that, according to the author, the amount of money which is being spent in income support schemes has a huge opportunity cost because it is taking away that money from providing universal basic services to the citizens of India. Now, the last problem which has been highlighted by the author is the income support scheme rewards states which have shown weak efforts in reducing poverty. Now, one of the major states within India which have huge poverty are Bihar, UP, West Bengal, among other. However, there are several states such as Kerala, Tamil Nadu, among other, which have made great efforts to reduce poverty within their states. Now, what would happen is that by providing income support schemes, it would ensure that more amount of money is sent to those states which have made the least efforts in reducing poverty. And thereby it unnecessarily punishes those states which have made strong efforts in reducing poverty. Whereby what is being done is that money is being taken from those states which have made efforts in reducing poverty and being given to those states which have made less efforts in reducing poverty. It is within that regard that the author is saying that provision of universal basic services would serve all states equally. Whereby, let's say if the central government spends money on central universities, centrally sponsored hospitals such as AIIMS, forming housing in urban slums such as in Mumbai, Chennai, Delhi, among other, and similarly other measures of universal basic services would ensure that all states benefit equally from the amount of money which is being spent by central government. Now, these are the main points with regards to the problems with income support schemes in reducing poverty within India and how through by providing expenditure for universal basic services would ensure the necessary steps for ending poverty within India. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we're going to understand a particular aspect with regards to your prelims examination. Now there is a particular section within your prelims examination syllabus called World Geography. And in World Geography, each year a question is asked with regards to some town or some ethnic group which has been mentioned in the news. Now if you take a look at this question which was asked in the prelims examination of 2018. Now this question had asked about 4 towns which were mentioned in the news. First being Aleppo, second being Kirkuk, third being Mosul, and fourth being Mazar-e-Sharif. Now all of these towns were in the news because some current event of international importance had happened within this town. Whereby Aleppo, which is in Syria, was in the news because of the fight against ISIS, while Kirkuk in Iraq was in news because of the Kurdish referendum, while Mosul, which is in Iraq, was also in the news because of the Battle of Mosul, which happened in 2017, in which ISIS was defeated. And similarly, Mazar-e-Sharif was in Afghanistan, was also in the news because of the war in Afghanistan. Similarly, this question was asked in the prelims of 2016, which had asked of a community which is sometimes mentioned in the news. Whereby the first option, the Kurd community, was in the news because they were the main fighters against ISIS in Iraq and Syria. Similarly, the Madhesi community of Nepal was in the news because of the Madhesi blockade. And lastly, the third option, the Rohingya community, was in the news because of the Rohingya refugees that had come to Bangladesh. Now, as you can understand, that each of these community or ethnic group was in the news because some current event of international importance had happened with them. Whereby with the Kurds, it was the battle with ISIS, with the Madhesis, it was the blockade of the India-Nepal border, and with the Rohingyas, it was the influx of refugees from Myanmar to Bangladesh. Now it is within this context that each year within your prelims examination, questions are asked within the section World Geography, either of some town or city which has been in the news, or of some ethnic group which has also been in the news. And the main reason as to why this city or an ethnic group has been mentioned in the news because of some current event of international importance that has taken place either in that city or with that ethnic group. Now, one of the ways on how you can prepare for such questions within the World Geography section is to go through the world page of the Hindu newspaper or the Indian Express or any other paper that you follow. Now, within that world page, try to look for a city or an ethnic group which has been mentioned within the headlines, and this will provide you a list of various ethnic groups and of cities that are required to be understood for your prelims examination. Now, if you take a look at the world page of today, that is 15th of April, you can see that the Kurds community has been mentioned in the news. Now, the Kurds are the 4th largest ethnic group within West Asia, and they're spread over 4 countries: Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. Now, Kurds are the world's largest ethnic group which do not have a state of their own. Now, for an example, Turks have a country in which they are majority, which is Turkey. Similarly, the Han Chinese have a country in which they are majority, known as China. Arabs have a country in which they're a majority, such as Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, among other. And similarly, various ethnic groups over the world have one country or another in which they're in a majority. Now, within that context, Kurds are the largest ethnic group within the world which have no particular country of their own, whereby they're not in majority either in Turkey, in Syria, Iraq, or in Iran. Now, Kurds speak a language called Kurdish, which is an Indo-European language, and this Kurdish language is therefore different from the mainly spoken Arab language within West Asia. Now, with regards to religion, Kurds are predominantly Sunni Muslims. Now, an important aspect that you need to understand about the Kurds is with regards to their world history. Now, the Treaty of Sevres of 1920 dissolved the Ottoman Empire after the First World War. Now, this Treaty of Sevres of 1920 had a provision which provided for the creation of an autonomous and a sovereign Kurdish state. But what happened afterwards is that the Treaty of Lausanne of 1923 was signed. And what happened in this Treaty of Lausanne was that any reference to a Kurdish state was removed. And this reference to a Kurdish state was removed on behalf of the demands of the Turkish population. Now, it is within that context that the Kurds who are living in Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran have been agitating to form a separate country ever since. Now, it is within that regard that we come to 2017, in which the majority of voters in Iraqi Kurdistan and the Kurdish dominated Kirkuk region of Iraq chose independence in a referendum that was held. And it is within that context that the Kurdish population again becomes important for your prelims examination. More specifically, because a referendum for independence was held by the Kurdish population, the Treaty of Sevres and the Treaty of Lausanne also becomes important for your prelims examination. Another important aspect that you need to know is that Kirkuk has already been asked in the prelims examination of 2018, whereby the Battle of Kirkuk was fought between the Kurdish forces and ISIS, whereby it was the Kurdish forces that came out victorious. And after the Battle of Kirkuk, this region has mainly been dominated by the Kurdish forces. And what is currently seen is that the Kurdish region of Iraq is basically an autonomous region within the larger territory of Iraq. And similarly, the Kurdish population within Syria are also ensuring that they get the particular area around Raqqa as an autonomous region similar to the Iraqi Kurds. However, this is being opposed by the government of Syria and the government of Turkey. But nevertheless, because of this push for independence by the Kurdish population, Treaty of Sevres and the Treaty of Lausanne becomes important for your prelims examination. So now hopefully up till here you've understood about the Kurds. Now moving onwards in the world page, you also see a news with regards to the Uighur ethnic group. Now, Uyghurs are basically the majority ethnic groups which are found in the Xinjiang province of China. Now, Uyghurs mainly belong to the Turkic ethnic group. Now, apart from this, they follow the Sunni section of Islam. Now, Uyghurs are constantly in the news because of the news of Chinese internment camps. Now, what is happening is that the Uyghurs within Xinjiang want to separate from China. And what the Communist government of China has done is make sure that any suspected Uyghur is separated from his family and is kept in an internment camp in which they are basically re-educated to show loyalty towards China. Now, these are the main points that you need to remember about the Uyghur community. And so hopefully with this you have understood on how to prepare for questions within your prelims examination for the section World Geography. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 13. Now what this article is highlighting is that digital payments within India have received a much boost after demonetization, whereby it was seen that digital payments in both the sectors of UPI and e-wallets have increased tremendously after the demonetization. Now what this article is trying to highlight is that UPI or Unified Payments Interface has had a much stronger growth over e-wallets, whereby UPI has seen a growth of over 400% within this financial year of 2018-19 as compared to 120% in e-wallets. Similarly, the transactions under UPI is almost 85% of the total digital transactions. Now, apart from understanding the main facts which have been highlighted in this article, what we also need to understand is what is UPI and what are the reasons for the increase in UPI transactions. Now let us first understand as to what is Unified Payments Interface. Now the first point about Unified Payment Interface that you need to know is that it is an instant payment system which has been developed by the National Payments Corporation of India or the NPCI. Now, Unified Payment Interface allows multiple bank accounts to be within a single mobile application. And apart from this, UPI also allows you to instantly transfer money between the bank account of any two individuals. Now, an important aspect about Unified Payments Interface is that it allows peer-to-peer collect request. Now, what is meant by peer-to-peer collect request? Now, in a simple example, let's say you're driving in an Uber taxi and the amount of money that you have to pay the Uber driver has come to rupees 500. Now, what this Uber driver can do is send a collect request of rupees 500 through the Unified Payments Interface. Now, after this Uber driver has sent a collect request of rupees 500, it would show you on your payments app. And when it shows you on your payment app, you can then agree to send rupees 500 to the Uber driver. Now, one of the advantages of UPI is that it has both push and pull payment system, whereby you can give money to a particular person and similarly you can ask money from a particular person. And this feature of peer-to-peer collect request is not there with e-wallets and is therefore a main advantage of the Unified Payments Interface. Now, another important fact that you need to remember is that customers cannot link their wallet to UPI, whereby only bank accounts can be linked to the Unified Payments Interface. Now, what this means is, let's say you have an account in Axis Bank, HDFC and SBI and you can link any of these bank accounts to your UPI. However, if you have a wallet, let's say Google Pay or Paytm or any other, then you cannot currently link them to UPI. Now, what this means is that you cannot send money from your bank accounts to e-wallets, and similarly you cannot send money from your e-wallets to your bank accounts by using Unified Payments Interface. Another important fact is that UPI allows immediate money transfer through mobile devices 24/7 and 365 days a year. Now, the last important fact that you need to remember about UPI is that it has single-click two-factor authentication, whereby the first factor authentication is the mobile itself and the second factor authentication can either be PIN or biometric. Now, an example of this is, let's say your mobile number or the MIA number of your mobile phone becomes the first factor authentication, while the second factor is something you can also decide as to whether you want a PIN number or a biometric such as your fingerprint, and therefore Unified Payments Interface has a two-factor authentication. Now, these are the main facts that you needed to know about the Unified Payments Interface. Now, let us understand the main reasons of advantage of UPI over e-wallets. Now, the first reason is that there is ease of transaction within UPI. Now, let's say in an e-wallet, what would happen is that you would need to transfer money from your bank account to your e-wallet, and it is after transferring the money to your e-wallet that you could use it to pay your merchant. And let's say if you're a merchant, then again you would have to transfer this money back to your bank account. And what this has done is created a long chain of transaction. And one of the main advantages of UPI is that you could use this to pay directly to the merchant from one bank account to another. And therefore there is no required to transfer money from your bank account to your e-wallet and then from your e-wallet to your bank account. The second main advantage of UPI is that there is no KYC or know your customer norms. Now, one of the main reasons as to why there is no KYC for UPI is because you have been linked it to the bank accounts, and the bank accounts themselves have already had know your customer norms already fulfilled. However, if you start using an e-wallet such as Paytm, then you would need to fill a new KYC form for using Paytm. And it is within that regard that there is no KYC requirement for UPI. The third main advantage of UPI over e-wallet is of interoperability. Now, one of the recent problems with e-wallets was that, let's say you were using Paytm, but you cannot use Paytm to transfer money to, let's say, the Bhim app or Google Pay or any other form of e-wallet. And this was one of the major hindrances in using e-wallets, whereby it allowed no form of interoperability. Now, what has recently happened is that the Reserve Bank of India has given out norms through which there can be interoperability between e-wallets. But nevertheless, the current reasons of advantage for UPI over e-wallets is of interoperability. Now, the fourth and the last main advantage of UPI over e-wallets is of trust. Now, UPI in itself has been formed by a government entity known as the National Payment Corporation of India or NPCI. And similarly in UPIs, money is transferred from one bank account to another bank account. And Indian citizens have a lot of trust with regards to the Indian banking system. However, what is being seen among e-wallets is that they're being operated by private players. and the money that is being transferred into e-wallets are also being held among these private players. Therefore, in comparison of UPI over e-wallets, people are more trusting towards the unified payments interface as compared to the e-wallets. Now, these are the four main reasons of advantage of unified payment interface over e-wallets. So now hopefully with this, you've understood both the aspects of this article as to what is unified payment interface and what are the reasons of advantage of UPI over e-wallets. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this image from page 2. Now what this image shows is the performance of the Bihu dance to celebrate the Rongali Bihu Festival in Guwahati, Assam. Now we're going to understand about the Rangoli Bihu Festival with the help of a question for practice. Now what you need to do is pause this video, solve this question and wait for 5 seconds for the correct answer. Now the correct answer to this question is C, both 1 and 2. Now the Rangoli Bihu Festival, which this image is showing, is observed in the month of April and it celebrates the onset of spring. Apart from this, the Rangoli Bihu Festival also showcases the beginning of the Hindu New Year. Now the Magh Bihu Festival is observed in the month of January and it marks the end of the harvesting season. And within that context, Magh Bihu Festival is also known as the Harvest Festival. Now apart from this, there's another fact that you need to remember is that there is a Kati Bihu Festival and this festival is celebrated in the month of October. Now these are the points that you needed to understand. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 7. Now what this article talks about is that the Indian Air Force has sent several proposals to the Defence Acquisition Council. And one of the proposals is for the C-295 transport aircraft. Now what you need to understand from this article is what is the Defence Acquisition Council. Now information about the Defence Acquisition Council has been covered in the Daily News Simplified of 1st of March 2018. Now what I'll do is provide you the link of the Daily News Simplified video of 1st of March 2018 in the description section given below. And through that DNS video, you can understand about the Defence Acquisition Council. And so now with this, let us move on to the next section. Now there are 2 questions for your practice and what you need to do is pause this video, solve both of these questions and wait for 5 seconds for the correct answer. Now question number 2 was asked in the prelims examination of 2017 and the correct answer to question number 2 is A. Mobile wallets will not be necessary for online payments. With regards to question number 3, the correct answer is B. Iraq, whereby the Kurdish population is seen in Syria, Iraq, Turkey and Iran. However, the Kurdish referendum was undertaken in the country of Iraq. Now there are 2 more questions for your practice and as you already understand, pause this video, solve both of these questions and wait for 5 seconds for the correct answer. Now the correct answer to question number 4 is D, neither 1 nor 2. Now the Uighur community is found in the Xinjiang province of China, while it is the Rohingya community which is found in the Rakhine state of Myanmar. While the Hazara community is mainly found in Afghanistan and also in Iran and Pakistan, while it is the Druze community which is found in the Golan Heights. Now with regards to question number 5, the correct answer is C, 1 and 3. Now what you need to understand is that this question has asked which of the statements are incorrect. Now it is the UPI platform which undertakes larger digital transactions as compared to the e-wallets. While statement number 2 is correct that UPI does provide better interoperability than e-wallets. However, with regards to statement number 3, UPI does not allow interoperability with regards to e-wallet. And therefore statement number 1 and 3 are incorrect and therefore the correct answer is C, 1 and 3. Now with this we come to an end in the analysis of today's newspaper. Now we move on to the question for today.